All right, we're going to start lesson 1.4, which is regarding absolute value equations. So it's the way these guys are going to be solved, and it's the following. Remember that when you take the absolute value of a number, it's actually the distance from 0. So if I take the absolute value from 6, it's 6 spaces from 0. Or if I take the absolute value of -6, it's also 6 spaces from 0 on a number line, right? So if I have 0 here, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? This is what that absolute value is, okay? So, conversely, is it possible for me to have something where the absolute value is equal to a negative? In other words, am I going to have something where I have the absolute value of x being equal to -6? This we can't do, right? Because we're not going to have a negative distance. On the contrary, though, let's say I have the absolute value of x is equal to +6. This is possible. Now, the question is, what are the possible values? Well, we just discussed them up above. Right? X, and I'm going to have you guys do a little tree here, right? X is going to come out in both cases, and we have to take our two alternatives. X could be 6, right? I could put a 6 in here. Means I can plug in a 6, and that's true. It also means that I could plug in a -6, and that's going to be true. And this is our answer, okay? Not or, I'm sorry, it's a conjunction. It's going to be and, 6 and -6. Okay, those are both true values. Now, we can actually solve these as equations as well. So let's take the following. Let's take the absolute value of x plus 6 and make that equal to 11. Remember the split that I just did, right? Where I had my absolute value, where I had x plus 6, and I had x plus 6. But remember what they were equal to on each side. It went up here when I just brought my x down and made it equal to 6 and -6, because that was on the right, what was on the right. In this case, it's going to be 11 and -11, because that's what's on the right, okay? So you just take, we're going to split it, take what's inside this absolute value, okay, copy it down, and then we have to take what are the two outcomes that we get out. And now I need to solve two different problems, right? -6, -6. So x, after those cancel out, is going to be equal to 5, and simultaneously, take away 6 minus 6, okay? X is going to be equal to -17, and that is your answer. Make sure that you show all of that work and make sure that you circle it. When asked to graph, the graph is going to look like this. It's going to be on a number line. I want you to find 0, okay? And I'm actually pretty chill when it comes to graphing. It's this. I just want you to know, I want to know that you know how to differentiate between what's positive and what's negative. So on the right side, the 5 is going to come into play. It's going to be over here somewhere. We're going to mark this point as 5, and we're going to put a solid dot on the line. Do not mark above the number line. That's a big pet peeve of mine. It drives me nuts. On the other side, somewhere over here, rather than making 17 tick marks, you're just going to demonstrate to me that over on the left is the negative side of the number line, left of the 0, and then you're just going to put that tick mark for 17, and of course, plot the point on the number line. And there you go. That's the graph that I need to see. That's the minimum I need to see. If you'd like to make all of the tick marks, you are welcome to do so. All right, next example, which is the absolute value of 2x minus 1 equal to -4. And we're going to do our split, correct? Except you can't. Gentlemen, stop right here. Look at this. You can't have a negative outcome for absolute value. What does this mean? It means that there's no solution. You actually can't even do this problem. So when you see that, it's actually kind of a free pass. Just, you don't do it. It just means no solution. And that is the answer that you would provide for me. Now be careful, because this is where some of you guys are going to get into trouble. You're going to see something like this. You'll see absolute value of 3x minus 6. On the outside of that, you're going to see minus 9, and that's going to be equal to negative 3. And some kid's going to see that and say, like, oh, I can't do this. It says negative 3. No, no, no. Be careful, buddy. This is what you have to do. You've got to make sure that here, this grouping symbol that is the absolute value is by itself first. So, in other words, I need to add 9 to both sides before I can even start this problem and to consider whether or not it has a solution. And think about the absolute value of 3x minus 6, which is equal to the sum of negative 3 and 9, which is positive 6. Gentlemen, you can absolutely do that problem. This can be done. Right? You can't just take and give up and just say, oh yeah, it's no solution. That's incorrect. Right? We need to make sure that this guy is by itself before we make a determination. Right? Up above, this absolute value, right, the 2x minus 1, there's no outcome from that was going to yield a negative. Okay? This had this issue first. It had that term added to the outside. So we have to resolve that and then look at this absolute value. Now can we think about it that the result will always be positive, okay? And now it is positive 6, so we can do our split. Remember, we copy down the left side twice, 3x minus 6, 3x minus 6. And remember, the two outcomes, you will have the positive outcome, so equals 6, and you'll have the negative outcome equals negative 6. And then there, we just have two algebraic problems to solve. So plus 6 plus 6. It's going to cancel. Okay. And I'm going to have 3x equal to 12. Divide by 3, divide by 3. So x is equal to 4. So far, most of your assignments have seen a pretty good job of you guys showing all of these steps, and these are all mandatory, of course. 3x is equal to, and then we have negative 6 plus 6, which just cancels. It also cancels over here, which means that I'm left with nothing. When I divide both sides by 3, when you divide 0 by anything, it's going to yield 0. So these are our two answers, 4 and 0. All right. So let's do a little word problem here. A writing assignment. Go ahead and make that larger. A writing assignment has a minimum of 375 words, but can be no more than 425 words. And we're going to write an absolute value equation to show the minimum and maximum number of words. Now, gentlemen, I want you to think about this. Let's go ahead and put this guy in a number line. We have 375 and we have 425. Okay? The question you need to ask yourself is, where is halfway? Okay? So the number halfway in here would be 400. It's a distance here I have of 50 total. 25 over here and 25 over here. So the absolute value, gentlemen, is actually going to be pretty straightforward. You're going to do it like this. That determined halfway value, that's what we're going to say we're going to subtract. So the absolute value of x minus 400, okay? So take that halfway value, throw it in right there, is equal to, and I want us to think about, well, going up and going down. Well, how much did it go up and down? And in this case, it was 25 in each direction, right? 25 more than 400 was 425. 25 less than 400 was 375. Gentlemen, this is actually your absolute value equation. If you don't believe me, plug it in. 375 minus 400 is negative 25. Absolute value of negative 25 is 25. Okay. And you can flip that back around as well. A couple more examples for you. Let's go negative 2 times the absolute value of 5x minus 1 minus 3 is equal to negative 11. Let's see if this is actually doable. And I think it is. Now, wait, it's equal to negative 11, but who cares? Absolute value here is not by itself. Once the absolute value is by itself, we can then look at the equation and say, hey, is it always yielding a negative? If so, there's no solution, but we haven't got that yet. So I want you guys to consider the following. Think about if I had this. If I had negative 2 times x minus 3 equal to negative 11, right? But I don't have that here. I have, instead of this, I have this. Now, what would you start with here? If you did that, first you would add 3, right? And then you would divide by the negative 2 afterwards, okay? So we're going to use the same process over here. First, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Okay, so it's going to cancel out the negative 3. And I have negative 2 times the absolute value of 5x minus 1. And that's equal to negative 11 plus 3, which is negative 8. Next step. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2, like I said I was going to before, right? It's that inverse, the reverse order of inverse operations, right? The reverse order of the order of operations when I'm performing the inverse operation. So then now I have 5x minus 1 as my negative 2's factor out. I have negative 8 divided by negative 2, which is a positive 4. I can do this problem. The outcome of the absolute value must be positive, and it is here. So now I do my split, okay? I have 5x minus 1, 5x minus 1, and of course my two possible outcomes are 4 and negative 4, and then I solve, right? Plus 1, plus 1. 5x is equal to 5, divided by 5, divided by 5, so x is equal to 1. And on the other side, plus 1 plus 1. 5x is equal to negative 3. Divided by 5, divided by 5. And x is going to be equal to negative 3/5. And those are my two answers. All right. Let's go ahead and solve. Yet another. Let's say I have the absolute value of 2m plus 5 is equal to the absolute value of m. I have an absolute value on both sides. Well, how do I differentiate that? Okay, so it works as follows. Okay? It's this. I'm still going to split, but it means that I'm going to now do this as an OR problem. Two m plus 5 is equal to positive m. And I'm going to have 2m plus 5 equal to negative m. And here's how I solve. Okay, so I do my split just as I did before. Okay, so make sure that you just make one side of it negative and just disregard the absolute value, and it will work from there. So we solve minus m. This is going to be quick, right? M plus 5 is equal to 0, so m is equal to negative 5 once I subtract my 5's, right? Or It's important that we put that disjunction there. Plus m, all right? 3m plus 5 is equal to 0. So I have to now do a two-step equation. Minus 5 cancels out. 3m is equal to negative 5. Divide by 3 on both sides. And m is going to be equal to negative 5/3. So that is my, actually it winds up being a conjunction because both of these work. Now, what you need to do is make sure that this works. So you have to check, okay? Have to. Which we haven't done yet. That's okay. We're going to do that right here. So I have the absolute value of 2 times negative 5 plus 5 equal the absolute value of negative 5. Okay? So this is the absolute value of negative 10 plus 5 equal to the absolute value of negative 5. Or the absolute value of negative 5 equal to the absolute value of negative 5, which in this case 5 is equal to 5, so it checks out. The other one, negative 5/3. So I have 2 times negative 5/3 plus 5. And that's equal to the absolute value of negative 5/3, which, by the way, we already know that's going to be, right? So I have negative 10/3 plus 5 is equal to negative 5/3. Let's see what this winds up being. Positive 5/3. Positive. When this guy comes out, he becomes positive. Negative 10/3. Well, we have to add. Remember, how many thirds would 5 be? And it would be 15/3, because this is how I'm going to have to do my adding and subtracting fractions, critical step, right? So make sure you're able to do that, combine these guys, and it's going to be give me absolute value of 5/3 is equal to 5/3, or 5/3 is equal to 5/3. So this guy also checks out. I'm going to show you guys where it doesn't, okay? We're going to have an extraneous solution right here as we move forward. As our last example for today. Absolute value of 3n plus 18 equal to 6n. Okay? Start it the same way. I'm going to do my split. I have 3n plus 18, 3n plus 18, and it's equal to positive 6n and negative 6n. Now let's watch what our results are going to be, right? So let's go through here and solve. I need to get all my n's to the same side. So I'm going to go ahead and start by subtracting 3n, because this makes it then one step where I have 18 equal to 6n minus 3n, which is 3n. And of course, dividing by 3 on both sides. My 3's factor out, 6 is equal to n. That's 1. And then in the other side, minus 3n. Let's go ahead and do that again. Black. Minus 3n, minus 3n. Those cancel. So I have 18 is equal to negative 9n. And I divide by negative 9 on both sides, right? Get my negative 9's to factor out. And I'm going to have a negative 2 is equal to n. Now, here's the check. Let's make sure that it works. And I'm going to show you guys right here that the first one is going to be okay, right? Absolute value of 3 times 6 plus 18 is equal to 6 times 6 when I substitute all of those 6's in for n's. So in other words, I have the absolute value of 18 plus 18 is equal to 36, right? 6 times 6. Or the absolute value of 36 is equal to 36, which you guys already know that's going to be the case, right? But let's make sure that you finish your check step and make them identical on both sides. The absolute value of 36 is 36, even though you can probably see right here at this step that that's already a true statement. And then we're going to move down to the next one. So 6 checks out, but watch what happens. I think you guys can maybe see it once we especially go into here, right? It's going to have the result of this guy be a non-positive. 3 times negative 2 plus 18. Doesn't matter what my result is there, because watch what happens here. It's going to be equal to 6 times negative 2. And even so, I'm going to actually give up on this thing shortly. Negative 6 plus 18 is equal to negative 12. I'm going to stop. I can't have the negative right here. So this can't be the result of the absolute value, because it's negative. Okay, so what it means is this negative 2 is what we call an extraneous solution. If you provided that to me as an answer, you'd be incorrect. There's only one answer. The other one does not work. Extraneous, the key being extra. It is an extra and not necessary solution. Okay. Go ahead and start section 1.4. Your assignment is posted on Canvas. Good luck.